The Raptors are getting better. To what extent are they a threat to the Pacers in the Eastern Conference? Where do these teams rank in the echelon of the conference? Sean Woodley of Locked On Raptors, and I break down what this matchup could look like in the state of both teams on today's crossover. Locked On Pacers and Locked On Raptors.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin. And today, I'm in a new room of my house, and Sean Woodley and I are talking Pacers and Raptors. Every summer, we team up to talk about the state of the East and where these teams sort of fit in around each other. And this year, it's very compelling. Raptors built what I would consider pretty well to be a tough Pacers matchup. They look quite good. They're better than they were last year. And yet this Pacers style has given fits to everybody over the years. And so we talk about the top of the East, how these teams match up. He asks me questions about the Pacers. I ask him questions about the Raptors. As we do every year, we make a reference to the Gentlemen's Club in Toronto that was named Tony's East. It's a good time. Sean's the best. Let's just get right to it.
What's up? Sean here, Locked On Raptors. Across the thing from me on the screen, or if you're listening, there's nothing to be across from. It's Tony East from Locked On Pacers, as we are here to talk about the two teams that we cover, the Toronto Raptors and the Indiana Pacers. We'll get into Tyrese Haliburton, his return, the expectations of Ivica Zubac, Kawhi Leonard. Is he ever going to join the Raptors? Well, probably, but we'll see. But we're going to get into, I think, the sort of bigger picture of these two teams off the top, Tony, as they, I think, are two of the more ascendant teams based on last season into this season in the Eastern Conference hierarchy. The Pacers obviously won the damn conference a couple years ago, took a year off as Tyrese Haliburton's Achilles took a year off, and they seem to be back and reloaded and ready to be really, really good again, while the Raptors, of course, went out and got Kawhi Leonard to add to a team that was pretty darn good last season. And I guess I want to start here. Looking across the conference, Tony, I keep on coming back to the Raptors and Pacers as being like, if everything goes well, if everything like health-wise lines up and these teams get reasonable health luck, I think they are the second and third best teams, like playoff equity-wise to me, in the Eastern Conference and the biggest threats to the Knicks. Do you agree with this assertion? And if not, which teams would you swap in for the Raptors and Pacers?
Yeah, when I did my Eastern Conference tiers on Locked On Pacers, I did two categories because of what the East is. Mm-hmm. One is like the average outcome of your team. Where do you land? And the other one was, if everything goes how the team hopes it does,
sure, what
is the top of the conference? Because I think Philly and Toronto, because of their star players' injury reputation in the postseason, deserve that category. But that's also true of the Pacers, who have Tyrese Haliburton coming back from one of the most major sports injuries that there is. And I think in that second category, I say, yes, the Pacers and Raptors are in the, I had it as a four-team tier of the Knicks. Obviously, they just buzzsawed through everybody for 2 months after the Hawks somehow beat them twice. And then the Pacers and Raptors, who, of course, we've seen Kawhi win the East before. He was still one of the top 5 players live last year when he actually played. We've seen the Pacers win the East very recently. And look, if we're doing that, if everything clicks, I know people won't believe in the Sixers. I think it can work. They have a lot of guys who've been the best player on teams that win series very recently. Mm-hmm. But yes, I think that is roughly the outline of what it would be. No offense to the Pistons or Cavs, but those are the teams that I think, yes, if everything is going as they hope or as the team has planned for it this year, could be a threat to dethrone the current conference champions because of what their ceiling actually is.
Yeah, and I think, too, the thing that fascinates me about these two teams in particular, Tony, like if I'm thinking about matchups I'm excited to watch between Eastern Conference teams, which I feel like every single night we're going to get good ones because there are 11 teams that at least fancy themselves as good. You know, we can disagree on a couple of those teams if you want, as to whether or not they're actually part of the interior, good team conversation. Miami. But the situation with the Raptors and Pacers, I think, lines up just to be like a super compelling on the floor matchup, whether it's regular season games, if they meet in the playoffs. I mean, I think that'll be a movie because I just think in a conference that I think will be defined by styles make fights matchups, this might be the most styles makes fights ass matchup you can get in the conference. You have obviously the Haliburton-led random, like just completely pass you into oblivion and shoot the lights out offense of the Pacers. The Raptors obviously were a really good defensive team last year and figured to be better this coming season. And, their offense figures to take a step as well with Kawhi Leonard replacing Brandon Ingram. And I just think you have this all wings situation versus this team that's kind of more built around guards and front court players with good wings in the Pacers situation, but probably not up to the snuff for the Raptors side of things. I just what excites you about when the Raptors and Pacers play games this season? Because I think there's a whole lot to dig into matchup wise. It's super juicy.
Yeah, in some ways, the Pacers themselves has always been in that what you said, styles make fights, in a way that was not true of other teams for the last couple of years. In that, for all of time, all you hear is the game slows down in the playoffs, and they can't possibly play this fast. And they're like, okay, we're just gonna do it, and it works great. And they do this random thing, and no one can stop them, and their defense is good enough, and they win. And so they just had this style thing going for them, and everybody struggled with it. However, I just mentioned I did an East Tiers podcast. I also did one about the biggest transactions in the league and what they mean for the Pacers. And the person I did it with, Kyle Taylor, and I agreed that if you were constructing a team that could disrupt the Pacers, it is what the Raptors have theoretically built, in that there are 3 A-tier defender wings who are just huge and tough and disruptive. And this goes back to Nick Nurse, but the Raptors used to be team arms and size. They would shrink the floor so much that all these crazy passing angles and random things you get stalled. And even last year and 2 years ago, the Pacers got stalled by a worse version of the Raptors. But Murray, Boyles, Barnes, and Leonard is a tough trio for the Pacers and has the tools of the teams that can face guard Tyrese Haliburton, can crash the offensive glass, and have a good enough offense to make it so their Pacers are pulling the ball out of the net and can't just run it down your throat. I do think that the Pacers have their own advantages in that series, but it is close to and in the lab design team to beat the Pacers. The only East team to beat Tyrese Haliburton in the playoffs, now granted he got hurt in game 2, was the Boston Celtics, who had a ton of wings during their championship run. And of course, Kristaps Porzingis also was a huge part of that. And so I think that would be a great series if it happens. I think there are a lot of Pacers series that would be great if they happen. But the Raptors specifically have done, I think their team is just good, period, but a good job of building a team that I would say the Pacers would, on paper, be like, oh man, this is the style that they would be weary of the most. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair thing to say. And there will be matchups where the Raptors, I think, are less equipped too, right? And I think that's just going to be the joy of the conference this year, is it really is just going to be rock, paper, scissors across the board. Matchups are going to be unbelievably important. And I think, I don't know, Tony, but what do you think about this? Regular season wise, I'm usually a little skeptical as to how much it means. Obviously, we don't always see teams in their full sort of complement of guys, because the regular season is just a battle of attrition at this point. You see teams kind of evolve their play style. Guys come into form near the end of the year. I tend to not take a ton from regular season matchups when kind of playing them forward to a playoff setting, but I kind of feel like this year might be a bit of a different situation, just because of how serious all these teams figure to be, how much every single night in the East figures to be kind of high stakes, as every single win feels like it's going to matter down the end. Are you bracing to maybe pull more from these regular season matchups in the East than you typically would?
Probably. If the teams are healthy, certainly. That's always the problem, is I feel like every year the Pacers play a team in the playoffs. They're well, 3 of their 4 games were before December 1st, and half the players are. It's okay, well, that's just useless, right? But this year, yes, I do think that will be the case. And one shift of the East too is, I guess the Knicks are outside of this field, obviously, but the rest of the teams that hope to win around have all made at least some real changes, all of them to their starting 5, in a lot of cases significant. Philly, of course, Toronto, of course, but the Pistons will have 1 or 2 different starters. The Cavs will have a different starter. The Heat, who you are down on, will have many different starters. The Pacers, since their playoff times, will have a different starting center. That all makes the regular season more compelling, because you're seeing brand new things in all these matchups in some field or another, in a way that information will be gleaned from. The Pacers and Raptors don't play each other till March, Sean. How
Crazy.
Horrible for our... It's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So for them, they'll be learning about each other right before it if they're both going to make the field. But I do agree that because there's so much shifting sands outside of the Knicks, who are why would we do anything? We're the best. There will be more meaning to those in terms of feeling out where the holes in the other team are, where the matchup advantages can come from. And it turns out for the Pacers and Raptors, that will be coming very late in the year. That's so stupid. The Pacers don't play Minnesota, I believe, till late in the year either. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. And like I think it was last year the Raptors played the Hawks like 4 times in the first 6 weeks and then never again. And yeah, it's
silly. I lied to everybody. The first Pacers Raptors game is February 28th, just before.
Wow. Your misinformation you're peddling on this podcast is unbelievable, Tony. We're going to come back, get a little more specific and get into how each of these teams are going to function. And I think on the Pacers side of things, what are the realistic and reasonable expectations for Tyrese Haliburton back for the first time in 15 months by the time they're playing games, 16 months? We'll get to that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day through the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Blue Jays playing pretty good ball right now. Alejandro Kirk is heating up. Maybe he's a guy for you. Tony, who do you like in baseball? Indiana doesn't have a team. Like, are you a Cubs guy?
I caught a Jimmy Rollins foul ball growing up. So I'm a Phillies guy, and I'm wearing an IU hat. Kyle Schwarber went there, and he hits a lot of dingers.
He does hit a lot of dingers. So yeah, Kyle Schwarber, not a bad pick for daily dingers either. So you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer, play ball, and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of MLB. Back at it here. I'm going to grill Tony about the Indiana Pacers now, okay? First thing, Tyrese Haliburton tore his Achilles in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. That was so long ago. Oh, my God. And he's going to be back on the floor this coming season. It's very exciting. He's a cool-ass player to watch. I don't really know where to set the reasonable level of expectation for what he's going to look like when he gets back on the floor, because as you mentioned earlier, it's a pretty devastating injury. We did see Jason Tatum come back from it in pretty short order and looked mostly like himself, but not totally like himself. And he missed the end of the playoffs with who knows if there was anything related to the recovery of that in his leg injury he picked up. That's just all for doctors, and I'm not that. But I guess where's the team at with their expectations for Haliburton, Tony? What are you looking for? I can't imagine it's going to be like peak playoff Tyrese Haliburton from day one, but with as much time off as he's had, is there maybe more hope that he can kind of get up to speed quicker? What's the level of expectation you have for what Haliburton's going to look like coming back?
You've nailed a lot of the interesting dynamics. So one is that you covered this series that Kevin Durant tore his Achilles in the finals, and so he missed the full next season and then didn't play, and for whatever that would be 16 months. And he's famously one of the best returners. Mm-hmm. And so that is one day, I've done what you just said. Okay, DeJounte Murray, he looks pretty good, but not quite the same. But 90%-ish. Tatum, same thing, right? So is it reasonable to say, okay, modern medicine has them looking better, but no, not immediately right away? Or is it, well, he took more time, so he'll be closer to his level immediately? I asked Ty at his exit interview, what level do you expect to be at to start next season? He said the same, right? I have to take him at his word in that way. He was, of course, dealing with the shingles part of his rehab journey at that time. But I think in terms of what he expects to be as good, and I think that extra time will help him in some way, but it also means to start the year, he will have not played a game in, 16 months. And so their GM, Chad Buchanan, around the draft, when he was talking about moves they've made, mentioned that. He said to start the season, things might look different. I have to be careful with minutes, things like that. And that's very natural and obvious. Last year, that Isaiah Jackson coming back from an Achilles tear, he played back-to-backs, but he's a 15 to 20 minute a game player. Tyrese Haliburton is a starter. His minutes are more demanding. So how they manage that will be a telling part of this. So I think they expect him to be, maybe not quite Tyrese Haliburton to start the season, but to get there at some point. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, they've acted like that, right? They traded for Zubac. They got Kelly Oubre in the door. They clearly expect to be quite good this year. And Sean, I tell this stat to everybody because it is the Pacers experience until it's not. They have not lost a series he has finished healthy. ever.
Yeah.
He got hurt against Boston. He got hurt against OKC. If he finishes the series, they win. Like, he's been that level of good in the postseason. And so until that doesn't happen, they have to act like he's going to be back at that level, because they've just buzzsawed through everybody when he plays. And so as maybe unreasonable as that expectation is, that's what's happened. And so it's kind of all these weird factors pulling and weird, like, we're all just guessing a little bit, but no one knows better than the Pacers and him, and they're acting like he's going to be very good next season.
I would imagine he will be. He's really awesome, and I'm excited to see him doing his Tyrese Haliburton thing on the floor again. So another big change, or I guess the biggest change in the team since that finals appearance, is at the 5. Miles Turner is on the Bucks now, and it's not depressing at all. And Ivica Zubac is now the starting center for the Pacers after a controversial, let's call it, trade. I called it awesome and balls on the table, and I loved it. And I think, yes, it didn't work out very well, but sometimes you lose a coin flip, and that's just the way life goes. But they turned the 5th pick in this draft, Keaton Wagler, into Ivica Zubac. I like the fit. I know he's different than Miles Turner. I know he's not a 3-point shooter at all. And so there's this sort of pushback, I think, to the idea that he can just play Pacers ball. I kind of don't hate them getting someone who's a little bit more defensively sound than late stage Miles Turner is. And I was one of the very few people when the trade or the Turner to the Milwaukee thing initially happened that was like, I kind of think the Pacers were right to not pay him his next contract. I think Zubac is a really interesting replacement for him, and there's all kinds of things within the team that will sort of help or hinder the fit making sense. But where are you at on the Zubac fit? Do you think this becomes like a bit more sort of like a balanced team with him in place of Turner? Do you think he's going to struggle to just keep up with the rampant speed at which the Pacers play? How are you envisioning the fit with Zubac on this team?
I love that I could have guessed in one try Sean Woodley's take on trading a draft pick for a good player. I know you too well, Sean. You've nailed all the highlight questions of this. He is better than Miles Turner, right? But he has very different strengths in a way that, honestly, since Sabonis, and Sabonis has his own warts, but that he is the best screener that they've had since Sabonis for sure. Best, and as Tyrese Haliburton has said, best screener Haliburton has ever had. He previously mentioned, deep cut for some, Rashawn Holmes being his best former screener and finisher in pick and roll situations, right? That's a huge upgrade. And last year when he wasn't playing, the Pacers talked about, and Rick Carlisle talked about, they had to hammer home in practices and talk about going through different reads after he set screens of look toward the rim. Look if he has a switch on the post up, or if he's open on the roll, he can score in a way that Turner got better at rolls, but it was little flip push shots, or he wasn't posting guys up or anything like that. That wasn't his game. So that will be a change. And that might come with some warts early in the season as they adjust to that. Haliburton has not played with him yet. They haven't even practiced together yet in the summer. He told us that. So that will be an adjustment. And you're right that it's not like he doesn't have a good percentage from 3. He's taken 12 in his career, right? It's a complete shift of identity from what the Pacers used to have at the center. And Miles Turner, so often, because he could shoot, would operate at the top of the key and switch it side to side, or be a threat to shoot, or dribble into a handoff. And they're not going to guard Zubac up there. So what fulcrum level can he be used at? It will require some tweaks to their system. I think their randomness and tempo is what made them so special and good, in a way that they have to try to keep as much of that as they can and fit him into what they do. But it just has to be different given what his strengths are. So that might require some level of adjustment. And if he's just mashing on screens and barreling toward the basket, and Tyrese Haliburton's mind can get him 18 points a game that way, or 14, whatever, great. That will be awesome for the Pacers, but it will definitely be an adjustment. As for the pace part, they played Cyprus and Israel, but I watched him play for Croatia this summer, and he destroyed them and was running end to end quite quickly and looked like he had intention for the Pacers, lost quite a bit of size. And who knows how much that changes what his strengths were. But I think I don't have a concern about the pace part of the game. I do with the shooting part. And also, he's an amazing interior defender. He doesn't have a lot of perimeter foot speed, but that will also be something new for them. So I just gave you 1,000 little wrinkles. But yeah, of course, there are questions about this fit. He has not played with any of the score. He hasn't played with Siakam. He hasn't played with Haliburton. But his strengths do, in theory, overlap with their weaknesses in a way that could make him a great fit if they can figure it out. But it might require some tweaks to what has been such a unique and successful style.
And I think a thing that makes it, I think, a more sensible fit than maybe, you would have thought a couple of years ago playing next to Pascal Siakam is that Pascal Siakam has become kind of a dead-eye three-point shooter in his time with the Pacers. Yep. And I just want to talk a bit about Pascal Siakam because he's my boy and I miss him and he's still awesome. And he was doing like the Lord's work last year on that Pacers team, just carrying an immense burden for a team that was going nowhere and doing it like a pro. Can't wait to watch him play competitive ball again this year. I know he's getting a little longer in the tooth, but still a damn effective player. Still, I think, an all-star level dude, fringe all NBA level guys. He's kind of been for the last half decade or so. How do you envision the Pascal of it all fitting in here? And I guess just like remind people of why he's so good. I think like he kicks ass, and I think I think this year on this team he's going to look damn good once again.
All-stars on 19-win teams like just don't happen ever. that says everything about him. Mm-hmm. Is that as everything around him crumbled and changed, and he was playing with like Taylor Peter, you, me, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl in late November, it was like, oh yeah, he had 24, 6, and 5 tonight again. Like no matter what the situation, he was like unguardable and was their clutch guy, not unguardable, but he was their guy in the clutch and made 3 game winners. And I think I did the math at one point. They had 19 wins. I think in 9 of them, he made a key play or the winning play in the final minute of the game, right? Like he did everything for them. And what makes him so special is he's just so unique. I mean, you Raptors fans know this, obviously, but like no one has the shot diet he does. His spin move, it's like, it's coming. And guess what? It still works. And he is the only star, I think, that is a 3-stint player. Like he'll play the first 6 or 7 minutes and then come back in for like this late first, early second stretch with the bench and then close that. Like no one does that. Everybody plays 2 stints. And so his on-off numbers are terrible because he's playing with the bench for like a third of his minutes, but he's like the only reason the bench is good in those minutes. And so he just does all this stuff that's like no other star does that. And he does it at the same level. Do you remember when he signed this max contract? Everybody was like, that's going to age horribly. And then he's been an all-star twice.
Stupid.
And they made the finals. It's like, yeah, it's aging pretty dang good, guys. So.
I remember when the Raptors were like, we can't sign him to a max contract. Yeah.
Yes,
great.
you can.
I'm glad
actually.
They eventually spun that trade into Kawhi Leonard. Otherwise, I'd still be really, really mad.
Yeah, there's a lot of intertwinement, right? Because Brandon Ingram's in that of this original Siakam trade to now Kawhi,
and that pick, the pick that became Waga, that became Zubac, like that was in there too.
That's true.
It's a very
they got it back after
trade.
Originally giving it away. Thank you, New Orleans, for also being in this web of nonsense.
I think one of my biggest conspiracy theories is that the Pacers knew Haliburton's Achilles was about to burst when they traded for that pick. I can't prove it. Probably is untrue. You cover the team, but
I think they did that for Stepien related reasons at the time.
Sure.
But it certainly looks very shrewd in retrospect. Yes. New Orleans did something so stupid that never happens.
Yeah, that's true. God, that franchise. Okay, we're going to come back and you're going to grill me about the Toronto Raptors, or what we think the Toronto Raptors will look like if Kawhi Leonard ever becomes a Raptor. We'll do that coming up in just a sec. Today's show is brought to you by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, one for inventory, one another for sales. Somehow none of them talk to each other. That's silly. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. That's true in sports, just like it is in business. And look, I hate doing admin. Tony, I'm sure you're the same. Admin is the worst, and it's even worse when all of your admin is happening on different platforms. Bring it all into one place, and it can make everything that much smoother. So you can focus on the stuff that actually matters when you're putting your business together and trying to be successful. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Odoo.com/lockedon. Go check it out. Tony, you now have the floor to grill me about the Toronto Raptors. Fire away, my friend.
My only question, let me put air quotes up for this, concern, because they went from Brandon Ingram to Kawhi Leonard and the rest of the team is the same, is like, do you believe that Emmanuel Quickley can be enough of an organizer, because obviously their defense is going to be absurd. Top 5 floor, probably, right? Can Quickley be enough of an organizer and creator for this offense to work? Because Scotty can create for himself very well, and he's a good passer. Kawhi obviously can, but that's kind of it. RJ can too. So they have 3 guys who can, but I'm worried about that team's passing a little, and Quickley is the key to unlocking all that. So I feel bad doing a pessimistic question first, but I loved Quickley pre-OG trade with the Knicks. Like, I thought that dude was going to be awesome, and it hasn't panned out. Injuries are a factor, obviously, the way that I thought it would. So he seems like such a key function to them this year. And I was bullish on the Raptors last year because I thought he was going to pop, and he was just kind of good. So do you think that he can do it? Because he's going to have huge he's needed for their huge expectations now.
Honestly, I think it's less of a need from Quickley than it's been ever in his Raptors career, because Kawhi's there now, right? And he brings a certain amount of like a guard like skill to the team, in particular pull-up shooting, which like the Raptors just like don't have any of. He averaged about as many pull-up threes a game as the entire Raptors team did last year. And so that's like a big change. And like the collective passing juice of this team, I think, is quite high. Yeah, Quickley's not your sort of organizer, make every pass in the book kind of lead guard. But I think between him and RJ's become a pretty nice passer at a pick and roll. Scotty's obviously a visionary, one of the best passers alive. Jakob Poeltl's a good passer for his position. Colin Murray-Boyles is a really deft passer for his position. Jamal Shedd is one of the best passing guards in the NBA. It's kind of the only thing he does as a guard is pass when he makes drives, because he never shoots when he gets there. He just does pass. And so I think across the board, I think Alan Graves is going to bring some passing intelligence to the mix too. Like, I think they have enough collective passing vision to kind of make up for the fact that they don't have that sort of classic Chris Paul lead guard type. And I think Quickley, so much of the value he's going to bring this year is just getting unleashed as an off-ball player, right? Like, I think as like a relocation threat playing in the orbit around Scotty, Kawhi, and RJ Barrett, I think he's just going to get a ton of really clean, easy looks. He was a dead-eye catch-and-shoot guy last year. I think that volume is going to go up for him. And I think where he's going to get to flex his muscles with the ball in his hands is, making second units tick. When Kawhi misses time, inevitably, he kind of fills in and kind of runs more classic pick-and-roll stuff like that, which he's always been quite good at. All the numbers always suggest that IQ run pick-and-rolls score quite well, whether he's shooting or someone he's passing to or shooting. So I don't quite see there being that same burden on Quickley to like figure out the point guard element of it all. I think having Kawhi makes it less necessary. And I think Scotty doing what he did in the playoffs last year kind of flashed, okay, like he can run a little more offense than he maybe did last year when they ceded so much of the offense to Brandon Ingram. And so I think they'll be able to piece it together. And I mean, I find myself always encouraged by going back to what I think is one of the most surprising stats from the entire NBA last year, which was the Raptors were number 10 in half-court offensive efficiency. Despite kind of not looking great all the time, despite not being a very good three-point shooting team, they just kind of made it work. And now they have better guys with whom to make it work. And so I'm not terribly concerned there for Quickley. He's still got to be good. He's got to make his threes. He's got to, bring that secondary creation when he's asked to. But I think the pressure has been never as low as it's going to be on him, just in terms of like what he has to do within the team construct. The contract pressure is kind of always there for him. But I think the team context is as conducive to his success as we've seen it since he came to the Raptors as well.
Yeah, I remember maybe you mentioned it to me, or I saw it or read it somewhere. I read a lot of Raptors coverage because there's a lot of Raptors Pacers overlap coverage because of the great Samson and Caitlin. But I remember when they played for the first time, hearing about their half-court offense being kind of good. I'm like, dang, every time I watch the Raptors, they just like force you into a million errors on offense and score in transition, and that's great, and that worked. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that will be, of course, telling this year, because they basically are replacing Brandon Ingram with Kawhi Leonard in the rotation. And that's quite the upgrade, especially upgrade. In a playoff setting. Yeah. Brandon Ingram's kind of good, but yikes, was that Cavs series disgusting for him? So that's good. Can they just start Murray-Boyles instead of Poeltl, please? Can I request that as an option?
I mean, you can request it. I don't think they'll do it. I think they're going to close most games with Colin Murray-Boyles, and I think that's probably more important. I think for me, I know there's this sort of idea that's floating around, and I'm not like opposed to the concept of calling Marie Boyles at the 5. I think people just got to accept that that guy can play the 5 as well as most people in the NBA already. Yep. And it's just kind of the reality. I know he's only 6'7" and people lose their minds because he's not a 7-footer, but he plays like one. That said, I think there's an element of their small ball looks are going to be so good and so dynamic that maybe you want to hold that card and not give it all out in sort of the opening minutes of games when it's lower stakes. I think closing with CMB is going to happen a ton. And I think that, you want to see what you can get at a Pirtle too, right? Like I know last year was awful, and there's a big subset of the fan base that thinks he just is a dead person who doesn't exist anymore, but like he's there, he's making a lot of money, and you can be sad that he's on a bad contract and bench him and, kind of limit the ways in which he can offer you value, or you could put him in a position to try to succeed and see what you can get. And I mean, last year, the Raptors starting lineup, when he was on the floor, absolutely waxed teams. It was like a +10 net rating lineup. They were really good. Their offense was unstoppable. And I think why fix what ain't broke there? If you're just swapping in Kawhi for Brandon Ingram, that lineup should be even better, one would think. And I just think, that there's going to be plenty of room for Colin Marie Boyles to play the 5, whether it's as a backup, whether it's when Pirtle misses time. I don't know if they need to go and do it from day one, but yeah, I think if they're closing games and CMB is not a big part of the mix, I think there's probably something that's not going right. I just think their best lineup is going to inevitably be IQ, RJ, Kawhi, Scotty, and Colin Marie Boyles. I just wonder if it's sustainable to run that out there for 20 minutes at night as your sort of lead lineup when you can maybe save it for pockets where it can really put teams on the back foot.
I ask that for self-serving reasons because I think the 5 you just said is the one that if you're the Pacers, you're like, oh crap, like that's going to be tough to deal with, right? Like They can put those wings on Haliburton and Nembhard and still have one left over for Siakam. Like that's crazy, right? You're really relying on Zubac to be a hub or a post threat in those. And
the Scotty CMB front court doesn't give up much rebounding or rim protection wise either. Though you might think they would, but they don't. Yeah.
They almost beat the Cavs with like a crappy offensive series because of those two doing that.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy. Also, a fictional trade of joy would be some sort of Pirtle for Miles Turner, silly contract swap, but Turner's better than him right now.
Both contracts are bad, and
yes, they are.
Part of me thinks it would be kind of surplus to requirements to have Turner on the team, and I don't think he really helps the rebounding situation, and I don't know. They're both bad contracts. I don't really want either. Also, Jakob Pirtle doesn't leak stuff to Chris Haynes all the time about what's going on in the locker room. So maybe I'm all right with him on the team instead.
He didn't even leak it. He said it on a podcast. He just blurted it out. That was crazy. I can't believe that happened. I forgot about that. And then they deleted the post. It's like, you're a little out of containment for
Yeah. Do you understand how the internet works?
So what do you think Kawhi's offensive involvement should be if they already had a top 10 offense, but he's such a brilliant self-creator and ripped everybody apart for the Clippers last year? Do you think he should just have the Ingram role? Should he be what he was? What does that take away from everybody else?
I think if y'all has the Ingram role, then fine, right? It's a better version, a quicker decision-making version of the Ingram role in the offense last year. I do think the Raptors are in a good spot to not have Kawhi do everything, and I wonder if he'll relish that, having had to be the guy to just make anything happen for the Clippers the last couple of years. Yes, I think late in games, he's going to be the dude they give it to. I think there's going to be plenty of room within the course of 48 minutes where he has pockets where he's just going Kawhi mode, and you're thrilled to make those concessions in a way you maybe weren't when you had to do it to get Brandon Ingram his touches, just because, again, they're more effective touches, they're quicker decisions and all of that. But I do think we'll probably see his usage scale down a little bit from what it's been with the Clippers, just because there's more options. And I think they're going to want to run some stuff with Scotty. He's a really damn dynamic player. And I think stands a chance to be even more dynamic with the threat of Kawhi Leonard catching on the second side. And so we'll see how open Kawhi is to adapt and sort of fit into how the Raptors play with this sort of read and react, quick decision-making offense they play. I think he's more suited to it than Brandon Ingram was for sure. And I think there can be a pretty happy marriage there. But again, if it does boil down in the closest moments to Kawhi having the ball in his hands and trying to make something from nothing, then I think you feel pretty good about that because there aren't many guys on the planet who are better at doing that than Kawhi Leonard.
And will you miss dick jokes?
No. He
was not a good player, but the jokes were good.
They were good for a couple of years, and then they just kind of got sad, very limp, I would say, the last year. Yeah.
No comment.
That's our show. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, Tony, for hanging out. Always a pleasure. Shout out to the commenters who are almost certainly going to shout out the wonderful gentlemen's club that you lent your name to, Tony's East in Scarborough, that is defunct now. Always a pleasure to chat, buddy. We're going to have lots of reason to talk this year. I can't wait.
Yes, we
it's
are.
going to be a delight. Yeah. Anything you want to plug for the good people out there?
Locked On Pacers every day, even in
yeah.
August, 4 days a week this month, but still.
Do it. Go check it out. And you can find me, obviously, not really on socials. I'm barely on there, but you can come to Discord, link in the description of the podcast. I'm always hanging out in there, talking nonsense. And we'll be back again later this week, Wednesday, maybe Tuesday. I don't know exactly, but we'll have Ivica on later this week. Katie Heinel's going to pop in for an off-season mailbag, all the good stuff. And then we're slowly ramping back up to going daily once again in the coming weeks. So thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.